In this video, let's finish off some problems and look at how to solve for a side. So, you should always just remember SOH, CA, TOA, sine, opposite, adjacent, cosine, adjacent, hypotenuse, tangent, opposite, adjacent. And you'll remember the first thing you should always do is you should, say, well, what angle was I given? Here it is. And then identify. The hypotenuse is the longest side. That is the side that is across from the right angle. Do that first. Then label the adjacent. This is the other side that makes up the angle, the adjacent and hypotenuse. And the side across is the opposite. We're going to identify what we were given. We were given the opposite side. We know it's 12. And we are solving for the adjacent side, x. Well, which one deals with O and A? That is tangent. So we write down that the tangent of 33 degrees is equal to, and keep them in order, opposite divided by adjacent. Now, I'm going to use the calculator to figure out what the tangent of 33 is. All right, so first thing you should do is just make sure your calculator is in degrees. You go to the mode button, turn yourself into degrees, and then just type in tangent of 33, and there it is, 0.6494. So what I'm going to do is I am going to replace this with that number. So 0.6494. And again, that is just the relationship that is between our sides. Now, I would always just put this number over 1, like that, and then I would cross multiply. So 0.6494 times x is 0.6494x, and 1 times 12 is always 12. Divide both sides by 0.6494. And there is your answer, whatever that is on your calculator. I'd let you type that in. Let's do another example. Right here, we have a new example where let's label the sides. Start with the longest side, then label the other side that touches the angle. And this is the opposite. Let's figure out here. We've got the hypotenuse, and we're solving for the adjacent. So that must be a cosine example, because that deals with A and H. So we write down that the cosine of 67 is equal to, and keep these things in order, adjacent divided by hypotenuse. Now let's figure out what the cosine of 67 is on our calculator. So here you're going to find the cosine button, and then type in 67, 0.3907. Okay, so I'm going to write that down, 0.3907, just replacing the cosine, x over 20. Put that over 1. And then 0.3907 times 20, which I'm just going to type in on my own, is 7.814, and then 1 times x is just x. So in this case, that's actually it. We're done. That's what that side is. So label the sides, decide which trig function you're going to use, set up the ratio, and then replace that value using your calculator. Let's do one more example. Again, first thing we're going to do, just label hypotenuse, longest side, adjacent, the other side that touches the angle that we're talking about, and the opposite. We have been given the opposite. We are looking for the hypotenuse. So the trig identity that deals with those two is sine. So we're going to write that the sine of 32 degrees is equal to the opposite divided by the hypotenuse. I'm going to use my calculator to figure out the sine of 32. It is 0.5299, so just use your calculator to replace that. Put this over 1 so I can cross multiply, and we're going to do 0.5299x equals 9. Divide both sides by 0.5299. All of these problems are going to have you cross multiply, and sometimes you'll end up with a final step where you have to divide, and other times it'll come out correct right away. This comes out to be 16.98. So that is my hypotenuse. So again, just to recap, every single time you should label the 3 sides. Hypotenuse goes first, it's the longest side. The adjacent is the other side that touches the angle. The opposite is what's left over. If you're solving for a side, one of those sides should be given, and the other side should be the one you're looking for, and choose which of the trig functions deals with the side you have and the side you want. So once you make that decision, say the trig function of the angle equals, and then set it up. For us, it was sine, so it was opposite over hypotenuse. For a cosine, it'd be the adjacent. Do not be afraid to put the x wherever it belongs, and then type in on your calculator to get this value, and then cross multiply and solve.